Hello again, welcome to part 2 of the fiddle yard. As you can see, I've finished laying all the track. None of it's been wired up yet, so only a few of the actual sidings have got any power running through them. So what I'll be doing in this video is basically showing how I do the wiring. It's fairly simple, but I'll show you it anyway, just quick snippets here and there. And I'll show you the bus wire as well, and me putting that in and various things. Now about 50% of the track in the fiddle yard is brand new from the 25 metre box of track you saw in the last video. I've got about half of that left, and I'm saving it for the tracks that are going to go on the top here, because I want to use some nice new shiny track up there. So the other 50% of track down here is really old track that was used in the previous sort of below level stuff, which worked fine. Or it's the flexi track that I've salvaged from dismantling the top board. So about 50% of it's been recycled. This is another thing I really like about Pico track. You know, even if you've ballasted it, just rip it up, chip all the ballast off, and use it again. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine. And yeah, seems to be working fairly good. This has taken me absolutely ages to do. It's pretty much 2 full days of measuring and cutting and sawing and sorting out all the track. Most of that is due to the amount of small little bits and pieces I've had to make specifically to get it all to join up. So we've got a special bit there, there's a special bit over there, got another special bit up that end, that's a special bit, another special bit, another special bit, another little bit there, another bit here, another bit there. Goes on forever. And it really is time consuming once you have to keep making all these special lengths to get it all to work, which is why there's so many gaps, but that doesn't matter, it all works. So starting off, I've drilled some holes to give the sidings power. So you can see there, it runs all the way along, keeps going all the way over to the end. And then what I'll do is I'll cut a load of wire to equal lengths, run them through the holes, solder them to all of the rails, and then they'll stick through underneath the baseboard. And then I'll attach them to the bus wire, and then we should all have power going to the fiddle yard. Right, I've soldered all 24 wires to the track. You can see it goes on forever. And now underneath we've got a nice maze of wires that all drop out the bottom. And I've tied them all together, so there's now 4 clumps of wires. So I save a couple of connectors, I only have to use 4 connectors. So now I'll reinstall the bus wire and attach them, and then we should have some power. Right, managed to fish the bus wire out. Here it is. A bit stiff because it's a solid core household wire. Basically, this is the DCC bus wire. So we've got plus for the DCC, minus for the DCC. And you can see there's a couple of clips already in it from where it used to feed up to various old places and give power. And it just runs along the bottom of this lower baseboard and gives all the below level of the track power. And it comes from my lens DCC system, which is hiding over here, down there. There it is. So you've got the handset, which is just there. Just grab it. So here's the handset where you actually input all the commands, but the actual brains of the system and where everything happens is down here in this little box that I made just to hold it out of the way. Right, I've fished it out, and this is what it looks like on the back. Now, there's loads of stuff on the back of this to connect up various things, but there's basically 4 basic fundamental things that you need to have connected. So the first thing you need connected is the actual power from the auxiliary power supply, which sits down there. So that goes into the box and gives it some power. Then of course we've got this big chunky connector here, which is what goes to the handset, so that connects up to that. The next thing we got are these two wires here next to where the power goes in, and they run up and go to the bus wire, which I showed you earlier, and give the track power. And then the last thing we've got is the power for the programming track. So you see that also runs up, disappears into the baseboard somewhere. There we go, disappears up there onto this piece of track here. This is my programming track, so whenever I do any programming on any of the locos, I always take them off the main board from up here and put them down here and change and program the various CVs I like to program. There's quite a lot of adjustment I like to make to all the factory settings of a decoder before I actually commit the loco to service on the layout. I always change the address, I always change the acceleration and deceleration rates, I change the maximum speed, I alter the back EMF slightly, and generally make the train behave much more smoothly to make it even more realistic. That's generally what I tend to do with decoders once I've got them. So there you go, that's the back of the lens, and that's where all the cables go. Now, on the rest of the layout, where I've got lights and other bits and pieces, I need to have power going to those as well. Now they'll just require a standard DC 12 volt voltage, 12 to 14 volts is fine. And now on the back of the lens there is no connector for that. The lens box itself is not capable of running a big juicy 12 volt feed to the rest of the layout. It's far too busy powering the track, especially on a layout of this size. All the power in this little box and the power I've got down there in the power supply will be used to power the track and keep the trains running. So additionally, for powering the accessories, I have an old DC Gauge Master controller. This is an old double track Gauge Master D controller, as you can see. Now all this does is, on the back there's a 12 volt DC feed, as you can see. The wires come out and just power an additional bus wire. So if I ever plug in a lighted buffer stop, or some lighting in buildings, or I want to power a point motor and stuff like that, I will always connect it up to the bus wire, which is then connected to this power supply here, or this controller. If I need to do any power to the track, or I need to connect any point motors up to the track power so they can switch the polarity like I showed you in the point motor video, then I'll use the DCC bus wires. So that is basically where the power comes from on the layout, and watch what each bit of the power does. So we've got the DCC, and then we've got the standard DC for accessories. That's basically it. So now I'll move on. So here's a load of the wires that need to connect up to the DCC bus wire to give the track some power. This is the minus side, and then I've got the positive side under there as well. Obviously it's very important that you make sure the correct sides of the track are connected to the correct part of the bus wire, either it be positive or negative. If you connect up, say, this rail here to the positive, and it turns out the rail on the rest of the layout is actually connected to the negative, then you're going to short out the DCC system. So as soon as you turn on the power, your controller will tell you that there's a fault and won't allow you to do anything. It will just sit there flashing at you until you find out where it is and connect the wire to the appropriate other wire. Right, I've plugged all the wires into the bus wire. Now it's a moment of truth, going to see if I've actually plugged it in all the right way around. So let's turn on the DCC. Good. It's already selected a loco, and hasn't come up with any errors. So I think everything is working. That is confirmed by the fact that locos on the layout have got their lights turned on. Right, so it'd be a good idea if we could actually test the fiddle yard and the wiring that I've done. So I'm just going to select a loco and get it to run over there and check it all works. So on the lens, to do that, you press clear, which clears the display. It's now asking you for what loco would you like. I'm going to be using this 108 DMU over there, which is loco number 9. So type in number 9, press enter. Now it comes up with loco 9 and direction and stuff, so you just change the direction with that. You can see the lights changing. So we want to go the other way, and then simply just give it some speed and off it goes. And of course that will accelerate up to speed 32 at the predetermined acceleration setting I've given it on the decoder. Okay, train's about to come out from underneath the below level, and I've just set it to use a random siding, so we'll see if it all works. That's a good sign, it's working already, so hopefully it'll make it all the way to the end. Through the little junction at the end, round the corner, through the curved point, and onto the helix. So that's working nicely. That road works. I'll now proceed to test all of the others. Right, well, as you just saw, I've been testing it. Tested all the roads, or tracks, or whatever you want to call it, and everything seems to work. Tested it with a variety of stock. Tested with the Class 33, both 50s have been used. I've used the HST, and DMU's had a quick go around it as well, and everything seems to be working good. Just done a little calculation as well, and the HST with the full length of carriages will definitely fit. Where it's parked now will be where it lives permanently, so got it squeezed up the end as much as I dare, and then if you double the length of it now and add one more coach, it tends to finish sort of round where the scalpel is, so that's excellent, because that'll probably be the longest train I ever own, and it fits, which is awesome. I've also got another really long siding. That one at the far end is huge as well, so that will also accommodate a massive train. So what I'm going to do now is I'll get a few more trains onto the yard and do a bit more testing, and then I'll start to actually fill it up, and then from there I'll add a couple more wires as and when I feel necessary, because it's all working, but there are at the moment quite large distances of track between each sort of section of wiring, so I'd like to add a bit more wiring down the end, sort of about there at the bottom of the helix, and I'd like to add a little bit more wiring further up the helix as well, just to sort of maintain the power should I ever get a fish plate corrode or a dodgy bit of track or something. It just adds a bit of extra insurance. Right, well, I've now parked everything in, and still got loads of room to spare, which is good. And as you can see, the station now looks pretty deserted. There's not much in there, and I've put all the locos over in the TMD for the time being while I just get stuff sorted out. Most of the sidings accommodate a 6-coach train as planned, so you can see my intercity coaches all fit in there. I've also weathered these coaches, not massively, just a little bit. Done all the underframes in a sleeper grime colour, so they look a lot more realistic. I haven't actually done any weathering to the roofs or the sides, but purely by just doing the underframe, the bogies and the wheels, it's made a huge difference to the overall appearance of the carriages. They look much more real. I've also greased up all the axles as well, because these carriages were particularly squeaky, so when I weathered them it was a perfect opportunity to shut them up once and for all. So there's now a nice bit of grease in each one. As you can hear, they no longer squeak anymore. Most of the squeaking you hear from trains running in the videos were a result of these Mark 1s making a right old racket. I've just noticed from this angle you can see the weathering on the Mark 1s a lot better. If I zoom in, you can see done all the wheels and all the underframe. The restaurant car looks particularly good with all the stuff that's got underneath. It's made a good difference. So that's pretty much the fiddle yard done now. All I need to do is install the point motors and do a little bit more wiring here and there, but you've seen all that stuff in previous videos. So in a couple of weeks time hopefully I'll get a top board on, and we'll actually connect the layout back together again and run some trains properly.